And I would like to give the speech now to Simone Conti from Eidoo and DeFi Italy, who will talk a little bit about DeFi and some patterns related to the circular economy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matteo.
Ciao, Simone. How are you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you well.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you for having me. I am Simone Conti from Eidoo and DeFi Italy, and both these entities works in the DeFi space. Eidoo is an application, and DeFi is a community. And today I'm going to talk about this kind of topic that it's pretty trendy in the last months. That is the circular economy, and how the DeFi and blockchain can be used to improve and enhance the circular economy usage. So I'm going to share a screen. Okay. Yeah. So basically, this is my presentation, and this is the quote of the European Commission, because circular economy is a word that started to be the first appearance of this word was in 2014 in Davos. And in 2015, the European Commission said we cannot build our future on a disposable model, so we have to change this. And they make the circular economy the keywords chosen by the European Commission itself on how to implement the revitalization of the economy of the whole continent. And because the linear pattern of economic growth has proven unsustainable in a globalized world, when the number of people is going to increase, and the demand for disposable goods is going to increase too. And we need to find a way to avoid this kind of scarcity of resources that put in the market a lot of frictions that right now we are going to see together. About the circular economy, to simplify as much as possible, we can see that is a system based on these three principles, even if the circular economy generally from the foundation that defines the circular economy has 5 principles, but right now we are talking about these 3 because it's the 3 where the blockchain and the DeFi can help more. So the first one is the value of the products and materials is maintained for as long as possible, and the waste and the use of the resource are minimized, and there is just kept in the economy when a product has reached the end of its life cycle. So when it's going to be wasted, it should be reused several times, as many as possible, to create further value. And this is the scheme, basically, of the disposal economy where we are now, and the circular economy where we can go, and we should go to preserve the world and the planet, but not only for this, but also because this kind of shift will introduce in economy a lot of more jobs. For example, just in Europe, it's like more than 300,000 of jobs, and less friction and more income for the people. So in this kind of speech today, we are going to focus on the role of the blockchain and the DeFi space in the circular economy. What could be their role in this kind of economy? So, and we divided the potential usages and the benefits that they could bring to the circular economy in 4 steps. for different steps. The first one is the resource efficiency increase. And in this point, I mean, basically the fact that with the blockchain and with the DeFi above all, we can create an economy without intermediaries. And an example, I mean, a huge example, for example, is the energy sector, where there are a lot of brokers and agents in the middle, where charge fees and fees and fees, and the user, the final users of the, for example, electric energy, is going to pay a lot for the energy that really doesn't cost so much. And if you are, for example, familiar with energy trading, it's really strange market, because there are huge margin for the brokers in the middle, because some of these brokers are government backed, and they have this kind of margin, I mean, as low, you know. Then what we can do with DeFi is to remove this margin, and in this kind of sector, in energy, but also in finance. And this is what the DeFi is doing. Right now, there is the banking system that is going to charge a lot of fees to maintain all the buildings and all the employees that they have. For example, one of the two biggest banks in Italy has 90,000 of employees. But if you, for example, analyze what's the bank do, if we can simplify, I mean, here they basically have the possibility to receive money from the people and lend money to other people, charging a spread between the interest rate and paid to the people that borrowed money. And with DeFi, right now it's possible to do this without having 90,000 of employees, because if you, for example, analyze Compound, they have like 12 employees, and they created a liquidity pool where there are borrowers and lenders, where there are people that borrow money, there are people that lend money, and the interest rate in that case, in the DeFi space, is higher for the borrowers and lower for lower for the borrowers and higher for the lenders, because there is no the margin of the bank, and the interest rate is only fixed by demand and supply. As you understand, this is going to increase income for the people, because people pay less interest and people earn more interest on that, on the capital that they have. And I can make also another example that everyone knows, that that it's Uber or Airbnb. When you rent the house or the bedroom in Airbnb, you have to pay, and you are going to book, let's say, the room for 1 night or 2 nights. So when you are going to the checkout, there is a huge fee that is going to be charged by Airbnb. But with DeFi and with the blockchain, this is going to be avoided for the decentralization aspect and the distribution aspect that they can bring in this world, putting together the supplier and the people that is interested in that particular service. And if you analyze this from an economic perspective, you can understand that it's going to bring an increased income for the people, because people are spending less money for the services than the money that they spend now for the same services. Then if we go to the step number 2, is the resource tracking. So the resource tracking has always been quoted like one of the best services that the blockchain is going to bring in the space. And I agree with this, but with a mention. I agree with this because with the blockchain, it's possible to track any kind of transaction and create tamper-proof, a tamper-proof validation system. And so the transactions are openly recorded that cannot be altered during contributing a transparency and the trust that right now there aren't. Because if you, for example, if you ask me how the money of the government has been spent in the last year, or how the money of the your particular municipality is going to be spent in the next year, we cannot answer this kind of topics or questions because there is no transparency at all. And with blockchain, it's possible to have this kind of transparency, especially in the finance with the DeFi. And the dimension that I want to say is that to achieve this goal, it's extremely important the role of oracles, because you understand that basically the blockchain has to communicate with the real world, and for communicating with the real world, we need oracles. I mean, a sort of link that communicates from the chain to the real world and vice versa. Right now, there are different operators in the oracles, more centralized and more decentralized, like, for example, Chainlink, Taylor, Band, and they are trying to establish a bunch of decentralized or distributed oracles that can give the possibility to extrapolate data from the real world and transfer this kind of data and transmit this kind of data to the blockchain. And this is extremely a delicate point, because if you, for example, understand how this could be done, there is a point where the data is inserted in the blockchain from the real world. And that one is the weakness that right now the blockchain systems have. If we don't have an oracle, infrastructure that works well and let us trust that the data input, the data entry has been made in an effective way, we cannot be sure and we cannot trust 100% of the blockchain system that we created. But it's something that we are working on, and I think that we will have a solution in less than 1 or 2 years on this. And staying always in the point number 2, and a lot of companies start to use the blockchain system to achieve this kind of word tracking. And for example, I know a company that is called Provenance, and they are going to create, they are creating, since 2 years, a system that permits to achieve a digital passport. It means that any product in the world can have a kind of digital passport with all the quality or quantity of materials of this of its composition or the ownership has been inserted in this passport, and the passport is tracked in the blockchain. So anyone in the world can, for example, know the composition of each item, and also the ownership, present and past ownership of each item. And this is really effective for circular economy, because if you have a digital passport of any good in the world, you are able to track the life cycle of any good, and you are able to see and to check when these products are going to end their life, or if they have the possibility, or if they will be recycled to and put again back in the circular, in the cycle of the economy. So ready to use again. This is the number 2, and I think it's extremely important for the usage of the blockchain in the circular economy. The number 3 is resource pricing. So for the resource pricing, it's connected to the point that I was mentioning before. Right now, it's a matter of lack of transparency, because the circular economy has to be open. Everyone has to know where the product are going to end, and when the product are going to be reused, and how the money are going to be spent. And the resource pricing, it's something that basically based on the value of each phase of the product. So for example, the single component of each product and their use of recycling, so their value when they are recycled, we can establish, for example, an incentivation system, an incentivation economic system that incentivizes people to use the products or to have a behavior that is the behavior that need to be done in a circular economy system. For example, in North European countries, there is already the possibility to recycle the bottle, the PET bottle, the plastic bottle. And for example, in Sweden or Germany, there are the possibility to recycle for the retail users. So I mean, for the citizens, there are the possibility to recycle this kind of bottle and receive money just for recycle this. So with blockchain, it became possible to digitalize and implement more sophisticated systems, like the possibility to be paid for recycling consumer electronics, for consumers' glass, for any kind of things that we can recycle, we can be paid. And we are not paid by another people that is going to buy the item that we are going to recycle, but the government that can put some kind of funds available for this recycling when they buy this item and they are going to be recycled. And these funds can be locked in an escrow account, so using the DeFi, and can be unlocked for each phase that I'm going to deposit something, like, for example, a bottle of plastic or whatever. Then there is the number 4, that is complementary currency. Regarding complementary currency, so with the internet, it has been possible to transfer in any part of the world the information. And it's possible to create information, share information, and also sell information, because we buy, for example, newspaper subscriptions, or we can buy a newsletter subscription. So we are buying information. With crypto, it's pretty different, because it's the next step, and crypto makes possible to share and buy value. So right now with crypto, we are exchanging. It's not like anymore a message, it's value. When I transfer a Bitcoin or an Ethereum, I'm transferring value to another people. And in the beginning, there were just coins. So with the time, even the concept of token has been introduced. And the token, it's something that it's really powerful, because anyone in any kind of assets in the world can be, synthesized in a token and trade in a token within the form of a token. And these tokens can assume different, approach. Let's say they can be a fungible token, Imagine, for example, Tether, where any token it's like to represent $1, or the Satoshi, or the gas, or the Ethereum. Then could be also a non-fungible token. A non-fungible, it's like that one token is different from another one. It's like, for example, redeemable token, governance token, security token, hard token. So it means that any kind of token, it's different from the others. Imagine, for example, that in the governance token there are two kind of governance. The governance that have like the administration rights, and the governance that doesn't have the administration rights. So we can create and recreate any kind of economic system, new economic system, completely different from the system that we are now. And the really powerful thing about the token is that anyone in the world could issue a token, and in a matter of clicks, it's possible to trade these tokens with Uniswap, for example, with Kyber, and anyone in the world can trade that tokens. So it means that potentially we don't need anymore the banking system to back and finance some projects, if you know, because for example, right now, if I have a company, I have the possibility to fund my company with my capitals. Okay, this is the first option. The second option with the banking system, and the third option with like VC funds or other funds, or equity crowdfunding funds. So if you analyze, for example, these three aspects, excluding the first one, is my capital for sure. The second one is the banking system, and the third one is the fund system. And both of these can be created, so I mean, have already been created in the DeFi space. And in the DeFi space, they are going to increase the global income, because there are no more any expensive middlemen in the middle. And it means that anyone can fund their company using, I mean, instead of the banking system compound, and can pay less interest than the banking system, or can fund their company instead of VC funds with a sort of smart contracts, or a sort of DAO that is going to be created in the DeFi space. Thanks, for example, to Aragon or other projects that are working on it. And differently from the real financial world, with the DeFi, it's possible to for the people to buy and sell fractions of items. Imagine, for example, an house, a real estate, and when you're going to buy real estate, so right now you can buy an entire house, or you can buy a REIT. It's called the Real Estate Investment Trust. And in the second case, when you buy a REIT, it's something that it's an investment where you are not deciding which kind of real estates are you buying. You are just buying a REIT, and the managers of the REIT is going to pick the real estates. But with the DeFi, you can buy a specific house, better, a fraction of that specific house. So, for example, if you want to buy an house in the center of Milan, in Piazza Duomo, you can fraction this house in a lot of tokens, and these tokens can be both from retail users. You don't need anymore to have 10, 15 million to buy this kind of house. And if you think about it, it will enhance the possibility to increase the value of the real assets in the world. Because right now there is the possibility for few people to buy that particular house. If you fraction this house in a lot of tokens, a lot of people in the world have the possibility to buy that house, even like with 100 euro. In that case, there are a lot of buyers, and if there are a lot of buyers for a particular item, the value of the item is going to be increased. And so analyzing this from circular economy perspective, you understand that if you are going to tokenize assets, especially real assets, and creating a lot of fractions of this, the value of that assets and so the entire economy is going to increase. And there is no need for the banking systems anymore. So this is the most usage, the most services, the most services that DeFi can bring to the circular economy, thanks also to the usage, obviously, of the blockchain where it's based. And in the number 6, in the slide number 6, I put an example of the resource pricing. So if you analyze, for example, this slide, you can see that we can match exactly the value of circular economy with the DeFi. So in the right side, you can see the cycle of the items, of the goods: recycle, remanufacture, reuse, redistribute. So, and any kind of cycle with the possibility to price this kind of cycle as a value. And when people is going to use the financial system and the DeFi system for improving this kind of cycle, it's possible to receive a compensation, a reward, that it's released with an escrow program. And something like this could be done for basically any kind of items in the world.
Thank you, Simone. I snapshot your last graph. It was beautiful. It was really, really nice. So basically, me and Simone, we had a talk. He's an expert, of course, in DeFi, and we had a talk a few weeks ago. And I was saying, can you actually get something ready to, introduce this topic more under a circular economy and local impact perspective? And he started doing Pindaric flights on different locations. So unless there are any questions from our participants, I have a few.
Yeah.
And no questions yet. So what legal constraints have you experienced so far within DeFi? I was thinking, it came to me when you mentioned the real estate tokenization and the possibility to basically crowd sales to different retail customers, etc. But there are like legal constraints which are not banking constraints and which are not financial constraints, but are legal constraints that go back to the principle of the monopoly of power. So who has the power to define who you are, so when we talk also about like self-sovereign ID, for example, like the possibility to basically give yourself your passport and your identity, this is something that has to be processed through still like all the constitutions that give this power to a centralized government, because this is monopoly of power. So I would like you to name some constraints and some use cases that you've come across with DeFi and the legal frameworks.
Yeah, this is a really good question, because and it's not easy to answer to this question, because I mean, we are working in a space that is burning now, so it's extremely hard to answer this question, because there are no Generally speaking, you can have an answer to this question where there are an historical, an history of some projects that are similar to this, and so you can say yes, but that project is similar to this, so we can apply this kind of regulation or not. So to answer the most problems that we can see in this kind of application, especially in the real estate that you mentioned, is the fact that real estate, so it's the fact that when a token is going to give rights or ownership or governance to a particular user, to a particular token holder, is going to be classified in most of the regulations in the world as security token. And in that case, it's pretty hard to to do something that it's clear from regulation side, because right now the issuing of security, for example, is given only to financial entities, like for example a stock exchange, but other small entities like broker or like equity crowdfunding platforms, for example, they can issue security tokens. But when you are going to talk about the secondary market, it's going to be tricky, because the secondary market for security tokens is something that it's really reserved for the stock exchange. So it's one of the most important issue that we are going to solve in the next months. And it could be solved in two ways. So with the collaboration of the stock exchange or these financial institutions within this space, and they are going, to create something to support this kind of initiatives, or otherwise it's a sort of war between technology and regulation. So if you analyze, for example, what's happened with Uber in the first times was banned in any kind of countries, but then technology, was on the regulation in certain countries, not all, obviously. But right now Uber is available in a lot of countries. So yeah, it's not easy to understand from legal perspective. So what you have to be careful is the fact that a token, most of cases, is security tokens, and it's tricky, the secondary market. But right now there are some operators, especially in the real estate tokens, like Realty, that is a platform based in US, that it's going to, they are doing this now. So they are selling real estate tokens to not US investors, and so
basically bypassing, sorry if I interrupt you, so basically bypassing all the overseas law and
yeah, they being US based, they have to respect the SEC, but so what they do to avoid this kind of problem with the SEC is that they are not sell this kind of tokens in US, and they are selling these tokens in Europe. And without doing a specific advertising in any particular countries. And this is maybe the key, because if you're doing the advertising in a specific country, a regulator can say, hey, but you're doing advertising in my country, it's forbidden, this kind of aspect. But if you do, for example, worldwide advertising, and avoiding the possibility for US investors to buy the tokens, it means that you advertise anyone in the world, and if someone, for example, from Italy, from France, is going to buy the token, you have not advertised that kind of products. And the way could be easier if you, for example, in the first phase of this, affirmation of the DeFi, you reserve the offers only to accredited investors, so to professional investors that have a certain requirements, like, for example, more than $500,000 of net worth and a kind of income, in general, more than 200,000 for here.
Correct. I also see like sometimes the implementations are not direct, but they have a step, like a bridge that get normalized, and that through the bridge you can basically legalize certain practices within a given network. I'm thinking about if quadratic voting is and quadratic voting plugins becomes de facto recognized as valid, and you can actually through the NS or digital identity tokens, etc., you can actually prove that this voting has governance effect, then maybe this is an intermediate step to start validating all other practices. Going back to literature, I would love you to suggest. We are, of course, recording these
Yeah.
talks, so maybe it will be good to share also to other actors and players. If you had any literature reference to suggest to people who are not confident or acquainted with DeFi, but they are more into the circular economy and sustainable models and are looking for viable technical ways to manage their assets and funds.
Yeah, I mean, so the website, the reference website is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. That it's the most important. I mean, regarding the circular economy, and there was among the first to discuss and to define the circular economy, and one of the most used website for this kind of topics. And about books that it's possible to read to the circular economy, there are a lot of books on it. And I can suggest, for example, there are one, it's pretty basic, that it's called What is Circular Economy? But there is another one that it's Waste to Wealth, that is a really good book. It's not so recent because it says like 4 or 5 years, but it's really a good book. And if you want to be more if you want to be closer to the DeFi space and the finance aspect of the circular economy, you can take a look on the circular economy, a wealth of flows, where it's discussed the economic flows of the circular economy. And then there are also a lot of books regarding the circular economy and supply chain that we didn't mention today, but it's extremely important, and also the importance of the blockchain in the supply chain. It's something that is considerable.
Right, thank you. I took note, and possibly we will publish at the end of the conference like a suggestion, a read suggestion from the hackathon talks, etc. If there's no questions from the audience, I would maybe ask you one final question, then we can take a break. I have some focaccia and some coffee to eat as well. early wake up today. I would like to ask you about your current endeavors. What's your where are you busy with right now? Where we can find you? If there's any project that you suggest as to if you want to just spam stuff. That's your 20-minute spam slot.
Yeah. So right now, I mean, with Eidoo, for example, we are creating an open economy in the crypto space. So Eidoo, it's a wallet where you can store your crypto, and there are all the services regarding DeFi that you need today. So anyone in the world can download Eidoo, can put their crypto, and can benefit, for example, from for the DAI with compound, for the interest rate, sorry, for compound, can trade their tokens with Uniswap, with Kyber, with Banker. So any kind of DeFi integration is there. It's among the most complete crypto wallet in the world, if you consider that there is also the cash in and the cash out. So you can transfer euro and receive crypto, and you can transfer crypto and receive euro in 15 minutes with the instant SEPA for European users. And right now we are going to introduce the Eidoo card, and then it's possible to spend the crypto with the card. This is the first thing. The second is DeFi Italy, and DeFi Italy is the huge community, country specific in the world regarding DeFi. And we started this community with my partner Emiliano Bonassi, and he's going to have another topic, a speech, I think, in a few hours. And we started this.
I think, wait, just to, okay, he's going to talk at 2 o'clock in this room. He's having a panel with 4 speakers. Yes.
Yes, he's having a panel with 4 speakers, and these 4 speakers are a whole part of the DeFi Italy, and it's extremely. I mean, we are really happy about this community because it's full of people like these people that is going to participate in the panels. So a lot of builders and a lot of early adopters, and it's one of the most, high level as a contents chat in the DeFi where I am in. Even it's really comparable with the DeFi International chat. And yeah, this is the second topic that we are going to do, and we are going to create more contents for the community to open and guide this world of decentralized finance, because it's extremely important. But then we understand that for some people maybe it's tricky to be inside, especially in the beginning, and so we are developing some contents and some guide on it. The last thing that we launched, it's called SNX Link, and it's like a proof of concept for now that is using the Synthetics platform. That it's one of the most important, DeFi platforms where it's possible to trade any kind of assets in a synthetic way. So it's really impressive what they are doing, what Synthetics is doing, because they are creating the possibility to have an exposure within the crypto space to any kind of assets like FTSE MIB, FTSE 100, Nikkei, real estate, gold, short, long. So it's really impressive what they're doing, and they are doing this with the Synthetics platform and the chain link integration, so the oracles that we were mentioning before.
Cool. Yeah, I know that there is also like a Belgium-based startup that does the same with music royalties. So basically, you can buy like 0.05% of Eric Clapton's Unplugged and send it to as a gift. So things like that. So basically, they accessed like a repertoire of royalties from a major label. Of course, not the totality, but just a fragment. And they managed to tokenize small bits of it and be able to resell it. Okay, one question about DeFi, and you were mentioning like approaching DeFi and reluctancy in approaching it, mostly because of also, ICO scams, etc. So the thing that differentiate like a bit the fiat world and DeFi, well, not so much, but still, the euro at least, is that you have a garant in the DeFi in the fiat world. Where is the garant in the DeFi world is yourself. You should be able to guarantee for yourself, or to be able to look out for yourself. This is a bit of the wild, wild west situation. So do you know, are you aware of any project or any token curated reputational registry where you can advise people or somehow make sure that, blacklist people, blacklist certain DeFi players and whitelist others?
There is something. There isn't something like you describe right now, but there are a lot of reference websites where you can, see the trusted platforms.
Right.
So, for example, the most used
but those are websites.
Sorry.
Those are websites. Those are just web pages.
Yeah, definitely.
I can sell those. I can sell my slots for it's a business, I guess. It's like it's a recommendation.
Yes, about the reputation of the DeFi platforms, right now there is the website. And if you are not considering website, what you can consider is two things of a platform. So, because as I said, there is the website like DeFi Pools where you can list, or where you can see all the platforms, the trusted platforms.
DeFi Pools, like Pulse.
Yeah, Pools.
Pools. I put it down. Okay.
Yeah, this is the first website used in the DeFi space. And then to be sure that a platform is trusted, you can see, for example, the second thing that I would see is how many assets there are in the platforms. So, because if it's a huge platforms, it's high. It's likely that it's sure than another one, because someone checked this before. But if you want to be sure more of this, you can check if there is an audit in that platform. So an audit by a third parties. Generally, companies, to give more trust, they make more audits, like 2 or 3 audits for 2 or 3 independent entities, so that they have 3 independent, results.
Yeah, but then again, you have to trust the audit.
Yeah, for sure.
So the thing is that, in your vision, is there any way to decentralize the auditing processes and like the governance of the auditing processes to make sure that the rating of certain DeFi players are purely based on data and not on any point of failure? That's what I'm asking. Because it's tricky. Sorry, it's a bit of a tricky question.
I understand, but in the DeFi space right now, some developers said code is low, and it's like this because it's the code that is doing the law right now. So, for example, if you look Uniswap, if you look other players, they are acting in this way, and we need to be sure about the code. And to be sure about the code, we need to trust to someone that understands the code. So it's a cycle for now, where the trust is not fully decentralized. Maybe in the future will be decentralized, creating a sort of DAO composed by developers or by audit platforms, where are incentivized to give the right result independently, and disincentivize to give the wrong results.
Right. Sounds like a project for DFO Hub somehow.
Yeah, something like that. For Alessandro, yeah.
Yes, DFO Hub is another project that is featuring during our agenda. They will talk tomorrow, I guess. Yes, tomorrow at 11. Okay, so if there's no other questions, maybe we can take a small break and come back in 5 minutes. If you don't have anything to add, Simone, I think we're done. Happy for your contribution, and it was very thorough, and I liked a lot your slide. I took some screenshot. Maybe it would be cool if later on
Yeah, I can share with you.
That would be great. Thank you. Thanks a lot, because they were very, very interesting.
Okay, thank you very much, Matteo, for having me.
Thank you, Simone. So I would say that we can take 5 minutes break,
Yeah.
get coffees. It's espresso time. We're in Italy, remember. Smoke a cigarette, smoke the third, fourth cigarette. No, I'm kidding. And see you at 5 to 1.